As human beings, we experience various amounts of emotions in our lives. Sometimes we feel energized and we want to increase the good that we're doing and decrease the bad. For example, in the month of Ramadan, you're fasting throughout the whole day, trying to abstain from food, drink and all the bad things, and try and pray as much as you can. And then during the night you're going with Taraweeh, perhaps with family, with friends, you're encouraging each other to do good. And you're feeling really energized and your iman is really boosted. You're remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in many different ways. However, after Ramadan and the rest of the year, sometimes it can be quite difficult and we feel quite low. We feel like perhaps we don't want to pray, perhaps we don't want to be fasting, we don't want to be helping people, doing the good, and sometimes even inclined to do some of the bad deeds that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited us from. So one of the things that Allah does to help us as Muslims is He gives us specific times during the year that can help us to remind us of Him, like Ramadan. So the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah is one of those times where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it special for us. So just as one of the previous episodes we mentioned that it's sacred, so us ourselves, we should be reflecting and trying to boost our iman to the best of our abilities. So how can we do that as Muslims, as individuals? Number one, we should try and increase the good that we're doing as much as possible. And number two is, if there's something that we're doing that is prohibited or disliked, we should try and decrease that to the best of our abilities. Now I know sometimes that can feel quite theoretical, conceptual and really not practical. So I want to leave you with two practical things and tips that will help you to increase your relationship with Allah. Number one is our salah. So if you are praying 5 times a day, fantastic. If you're not, then you should try your best in these 10 days to build a habit to be praying 5 times a day at minimum. But if you are praying 5 times a day, then what you can work on is your concentration during those 5 times. Instead of rushing, try and concentrate. Instead of rushing and not understanding what you're reading, maybe pick up and understand the surahs that you're reading regularly, so you can increase your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during the prayers. Tip number 2 is reciting the Holy Quran, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for those of you who understand Arabic, you should try and spend your time to understand what you're reading. And for those of you who don't understand Arabic, try and increase the amount that you recite and take a translation so you can connect more with the Quran. So these are 2 ways that you can increase your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during these 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. Jazakallah khairan.